Let's talk about the STAR athletica test. In other words, the latest test from the Supreme Court on how to evaluate copyrightability of so-called useful articles. So first we should talk about when it even applies, or when you don't have to worry about it. So, for useful articles that are not solely to portray an appearance or to provide information, you don't have to worry about the test at all. Those ones are going to be copyrightable if you meet the basic standards of having original work of authorship that are fixed. So if it's only to portray an appearance like a piece of artwork or to provide information like a map, you are good to go if you meet the basic requirements. On the other hand, if you have something like a chair, it's not just to look at or to give you information, you then need to consider another test. If you're talking about an article that is pictorial, graphical, or sculptural. Now, what is that test? That's what we're going to talk about. All right, so the STAR Athletica test, which actually involved a case of cheerleading uniforms and whether those patterns could be considered copyrightable, says that there are two things that both must be satisfied to have copyrightability. The first is that the design can be perceived as a work of art. This is to remind you of works of art. So first step, design can be perceived as a work of art. And you also must have that design be able to satisfy the basic copyright tests, originality and minimal creativity, if you imagine it separately. So we're basically trying to recreate a scenario where you imagine the issue separate. So in the Star Athletica case, they try to imagine where the stripes on the cheerleading uniforms, if it was, say, on a canvas, would you consider that a work of art? That's basically what we're asking. And maybe it's a work of art, but then you still have to ask, is there enough there for it to be copyrightable? For example, if it was just one stripe, is there really adequate creativity? Maybe not. Now let's go through an example. Okay, so if you have pictorial, graphical, sculptural work, the first question is there an easy way out of the useful article bar? In other words, if it's only to portray appearance or information, you're done. You don't have to worry anymore. You just pass the regular copyright tests of original with adequate creativity and fixed in a tangible medium. If you don't have an easy out, then you do the Star Athletica test and ask, can the design be perceived as a work of art? And would the design satisfy the basic copyright test of minimal creativity if you imagine it separately, perhaps in a different context? In other words, you would have to conceive that it were something else. This is easy to say, sometimes hard to apply, but importantly, does not hinge at all on whether it would be easy or hard to develop, unlike some prior tests. It's all about, could you perceive it? Which is a little bit mushy, but hopefully this gives you the outlines of how to do the analysis.